I like the analogy of this versus Rise of Skywalker for another reason, though. It's not just let's go from beat to beat to beat to beat to get there. Rise of Skywalker was a movie that came out to answer to fans' complaints about The Last Jedi, because there were a lot of fans who just didn't like The Last Jedi. Whether you liked it or not, I'm not arguing that point. My initial thought on that movie particularly is that I feel like Rian Johnson is a really competent and respected director and writer, and I think he does a great job. I think that what he wrote was like a misunderstanding of what the assignment was. You were supposed to write about frogs, my man, and you wrote about sidewalks. And everyone's like, this is a really well-written piece about sidewalks, but that's not what we were supposed to write about frogs.
Yeah, you get an F.
That's what it feels like to me. That's what it feels like to me.
An F, I worked my ass off on this thing about sidewalks. Yeah, but you didn't do what was assigned.
Exactly.
You get an F.
And that's how I feel. You were supposed to continue a story that people like and feel within the confines of what that world is, and not try to bear too far off the mark. When they got to Rise of Skywalker, it's like, okay, we got a lot of angry fans. Throw all the nostalgia that we can at the fans.
Bring back also, everybody. Bring back the Emperor. Bring back Felix Leiter. Bring back this. Bring back Blofeld.
And we'll kill them off in the process.
And then kill them.
Let's rewrite the beginning of the movie so that we can like kind of apologize for what the last movie was that wasn't well received. So like, that's kind of what this movie does. The problem with it is just the motivations are very unclear.
That's how I felt.
Like the villains, like it's because of this whole, like, we got to apologize for the Spectre movie, so we're going to kill Blofeld off. Great. Okay. But how do we shift gears to I'm going to kill millions? The only thing I would have done to change that little bit, though, and Charlie, you might agree, is just be clear as to who they're killing, because they already set this thing up where they said, hey, this thing was supposed to be intended to use to just kill a single individual and be very efficient and be like, oh, we got to kill the president of whatever. Okay, we got the DNA. Boom, he's dead. That was what it was intended for. It wasn't intended to be a mass weapon. But when Q is getting the data for all the DNA sequences and all the text files, he's like, yeah, they're all, I have to go through this. They're all like, but they're all categorized. I got to go through this. I got to figure it out. And they're never specific. The only fix that I would have done is have Safin say something about like, look, Spectre tried to ruin your relationship with your wife and has ruined your life and was the author of all of your pain or whatever the bullshit was. Spectre killed my entire family, and I think we should get rid of all the bad people in the world. We should get rid of anybody who could potentially create an organization to kill people. And then that turns into millions and millions of people that could or could not be innocent. And then at least that leaves the end choice being a little more dynamic, where you're like, oh, like that's why he's doing this. That makes sense. That's smart. It kills all the little baby Hitlers out there. Like that would be great, but that's not in the movie. So we never hear that. Like if that line of dialogue was there, we'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Something else, they never said anything about EMP resistant nanos. So by the end of the movie, we just repeatedly hear Q saying, there is no cure for Heracles.
Once Heracles is in your system, it's there forever.
Once you have it for life, even though it's common knowledge and also several Bond movies have laid out the nature of EMP.
All microchips were susceptible to damage from the intense magnetic pulse of a nuclear explosion.
Set off a nuclear device in the upper atmosphere. Creates a pulse, a radiation surge that destroys everything with an electronic circuit.
They kind of needed to cover off on that. Bond even has an EMP wristwatch.
Yeah.
Electromagnetic pulse. It'll short any circuit in a hardwired network if you get close enough.
Mm-hmm. By the end of the movie, it's like, can't we get a second opinion before you kill yourself, Bond?
Abort missile.
Abort missile.
Couldn't you just remote det the missiles and then go to the other side of the island and like coordinate some kind of thing where eventually Q would be like, now Bond, you're in quarantine and stay in quarantine for a while. Hey, look, we've developed the EMP whatever. And the EMP thing has cleared Heracles from your blood, and now you're good. But in lieu of that, on the one hand, the sacrifice moves me to tears. On the other hand, you have to cover off on alternatives.
Anyone we touch, we are their curse. Madeline, Mathilde, a kiss would kill them instantly. And life is all about leaving something behind, isn't it?
This has to be 100% locked in that you have to die, and then I'm there with you. But as Bond's dying and I'm actively crying, I'm like, shouldn't he have gotten a second opinion?
If you get it on you, how do you get it off?
You know as well as I do that you can't. It's permanent. It's
eternal.
Are you sure about that? This
It's
is kind
only
of an
Q.
experimental thing.
Q's the only one who says that. It's like Q. Let's get a second opinion. Oh, Bond. Let's set the GoldenEye off on your position first.
We just needed the one line of dialogue.
They're EMP resistant nanos.
That's all you needed.
That's all I needed.
All we needed. We
Yeah.
didn't need anything else.
I kept thinking of Metal Gear Solid. It was like all about nanotech.
It looks like the DIA recently developed a new type of assassination weapon. An assassination weapon? It's some kind of virus that targets specific people. What are you trying to say? It's too similar.
You know, those last couple of lines back and forth, it's never been discussed. He knows that's his daughter. She won't admit it to him.
She's not yours.
But, okay, the blue eyes, just...
She's not yours.
Okay.
But he dies for it.
She does have your eyes.
I know.
Holding that little bunny in his belt.
Do you notice in the beginning, though, how he puts her on the train? And what does she do? Do you remember the action
Yeah,
she does?
She holds it. She grabs her hand. She goes like that. Yeah.
She grabs her uterus.
Oh, we all knew at that
She grabs
point,
her
but-
baby belly. And right away, you're like, she's pregnant. Because that's where her brain goes, I'm going to be a single mom. It's a tragic moment, which McCurdy, at this point, that is the longest prologue in Bond history, right?
Yeah.
It's like 23, 24 minutes. And then later, he meets...
This is Mathilde.
Hello.
Mathilde. So it's funny. It's Madeline and Matilda, which are like two
Yeah.
childhood properties for us, for our generation. Madeline, that property, and then Matilda, another property.
A positive point to this movie. One of the best death scenes. Like, yeah, no, I had a brother.
Yeah.
Nice moves, Bond. You won't be able to stop him. So why don't you help me out, brother?
I had a brother. His name was Felix Leiter.
The garage scene, he lifts the door up. You see the bulldog, which you guys covered heavily in Skyfall, perfectly describes Bond.
The big picture.
So
that
Yeah.
is a
when
symbol
does
of the
he
big
see
picture.
the bulldog the last time? He loses his mother. This
Yep.
time, his brother has just died. The car he reveals is the old Aston V8 Vantage that was in Dalton's movie.
That's cool.